Hey guys, this is Bharat and welcome to Bharat's Kitchen with how to make yeast-free bhatura. Now, bhaturas goes best with chana masala or the Punjabi choles and also the khatte aloo that I posted last week. So you can watch those videos as well. And do you know that bhaturas actually can be of many types, which can be broadly divided into two, which is yeast risen or without yeast. So you can further divide them into which kind of fat you're using, like saturated fat or unsaturated fat. And further they can be subdivided into bhaturas which stay soft for a longer time and bhaturas which stay firm for a longer time. But remember, all of these bhaturas can also be stuffed bhaturas. But in this video we're going to discuss how do they commonly make bhaturas in restaurants. That is without yeast and with saturated fat. Well, basically because it has more shelf life. Okay, so let's begin with it. So first we're gonna see how to make a bhatura which stays firm for a longer time. So for that you need some all-purpose flour, also known as maida, some yogurt which is at room temperature, and my secret ingredient which is milk powder. You also gonna need some salt, some baking soda and some baking powder. Then to make the bhatura stay firm, we're gonna add some semolina, also known as suji. Just mix everything together roughly and then add your saturated fat, which in my case is desi ghee, but you can also use vanaspati ghee or hydrogenated vegetable oil. Now finally, before adding the warm water, I'm gonna mix some sugar in this, because hey, sugar generally doesn't dissolve properly. Now all you need to do is to first combine the dough together and then start to knead the dough. And yes, kneading is the key here. Like the key to a good marriage is a quiet husband with a yelling wife. So in the same way, you need proper kneading and ample resting. So we're gonna let this dough rest for a minimum of 2 hours. But like every marriage, there is a secret to happiness, which is no, not the kids. It's the husband putting earphones in his ears and the wife, well, she's still yelling. But anyways, you might have heard in some recipes to keep the dough in a warm place with a wet cloth over it. And that's precisely what I'm gonna do, but the key thing here is that you need to do it correctly. So what I've done is that I've stuck a probe in the thickest part of the dough and it says the internal temperature is about 34 degrees centigrade. And when you keep the dough in a warm place, then you can easily notice that the temperature is actually increasing. So the question is, why does this happen and why is it important? Basically, the cloth works as an insulator here. And since the cloth is wet, it provides a moisturous environment for the dough, which promotes fermentation. And due to these effects, the dough becomes resilient. And that is why they keep the dough in a warm place with a wet cloth over it. Alright, now for the bhaturas which stay soft for a long time. So everything in the dough is exactly the same, except this time I have reduced the amount of semolina and increased the amount of milk powder. And yes, this makes a huge difference. So all you have to do is to combine the dough just as before, and you have to knead the dough just as before. And again, let the dough rest, and this time let the dough rest for a minimum of 1 hour. And after 2 hours of resting, you can see that both the dough are pretty stretchy, and if you press it, you can see that it's pretty resilient. So now all you need to do is to divide the dough into balls and make sure that these balls are smooth. Then just apply some oil on the balls and cover them with a wet cloth and let the dough relax for 10 to 15 minutes. And in the meanwhile, we're gonna warm up our oil, because to make the perfect bhaturas, you need a very hot oil. And you can see that my cooking oil is above 200 degrees centigrade, which is super hot. Alright, at this point just take a dough ball, roll it on one side, then flip, roll it on the other side, but make sure that you don't roll your bhaturas a lot, because if you make your bhaturas too thin, they will definitely not puff up. So what I do is that before putting them in hot oil, I just stretch them a little bit. So all you need to do is to drop the bhatura in the hot oil, and first try to press the bhatura inside the hot oil, and when the bhatura comes up, then try to pour hot oil over it. Now this is actually very important to make your bhaturas cook properly. Why? Well, let's see closely what's actually happening inside the bhaturas. So when you put the bhaturas inside the hot oil, you have to make sure that their internal temperature rises properly. So that is why we push the bhaturas towards the hot oil. So basically your bhatura dough is actually full of moisture, and when you put the bhatura inside the super hot oil, that moisture starts to turn into steam, and these moisture bubbles start to expand. Now here our starch comes into play. You see, semolina holds more moisture than the regular flour, so it also releases more moisture. It dries out much faster, which cooks the outer surface much faster. Now the point comes that why did I pour hot oil on the other side as well? So basically, if you pour hot oil on both the sides, your bhaturas will be able to trap steam. And that's the reason why the bhaturas puff up and cooks properly from the inside. And if your bhaturas won't puff up properly, their internal bread structure will not be so good, and you'll not be able to get this kind of internal bhatura structure. Okay, now it's been 1 hour. Now the firm bhaturas will stay firm for a good long time. And you can see that the soft bhatura is softer. And the internal structure of the firm bhatura is a little on the yellowish brownish side. And the internal structure of my soft bhatura is a lot on the whiter side. But the best part about these bhaturas is that they're cooked on the right temperature, and that is why they're not so much oily. So there you go guys, how to make perfect bhaturas. Now these bhaturas goes best with perfect chana masala or khatte aloo. And you'll find all the list of ingredients and their measurements and the recipe for chana masala and the khatte aloo on my website. And if you like this video, do give it a thumbs up. For updates and queries, you can like me on Facebook, follow me on Twitter and Google+. Until then, I'll see you all next time.